Hello and welcome to this edition of Wake and Bake News. And I'm your host, Shampoo VTA Kelly Davis, who just can't stop smiling today. This is such a glorious day. It is so good and juicy. You may not think it is when I tell you the news, if you haven't heard already. But in actuality, what's going to happen next as a result of some of the news that came out in the last 2 days is going to be so much fun. First, let's think back on the mood of the country, nay, the world. Let's look at the Brexit. Why did the Brexit take place? Because people are fed up with government, people are fed up with bureaucracy, and they don't like immigrants, was basically it. And a general unhappiness amongst the populace with the current leadership and belief system. Is that not correct? What is happening right now in the United States? Donald Trump's movement is very much similar to the Brexit. It's sort of a xenophobia mixed with an absolute and complete hatred of government, overreach, correct? That's the mood of our political system right now. While you have many Democrats that are also frustrated with Bernie Sanders, with Bernie Sanders' movement and the millennials. They're frustrated. They want to see things changed. They see this as government overreach and bureaucratic gridlock, and they're sick of it. This is the mood that we are swimming in right now. And what happens right in the middle of this? Well, first, an interesting story comes out yesterday about Malia Obama smoking marijuana at Lollapalooza. Now, I'm arguing she's smoking marijuana. She's not signing an autograph. She's not smoking a cigarette because, number one, smoking a cigarette would make her look really fucking stupid. That is not looked upon with happiness by anyone, whether you're a pot smoker or not. Smoking cigarettes makes you look like a fucking idiot now, okay? So she wouldn't admit to doing that. And the other thing is that whatever she was putting in her mouth was of such a short length that I would think that if it was a cigarette, she'd be smoking the foam. So if it was a cigarette, it would be the foam she'd be hitting on. And if she's the president's daughter, she could afford a pack of cigarettes. Only poor people smoke cigarette butts, right? Which I mention when I'm talking about this. Oh, I see Adam Edinger retweeted something or liked something I said. I said, yeah, I've been telling him. They just handed us the election. Okay? They just handed us every fucking state where marijuana is on the ballot. Because, number one, Malia Obama got caught smoking marijuana at Lollapalooza, which everybody says okay, it's just like, where do I start? It's so amazing. Suddenly, every argument that I have made about marijuana, about its dangers, every argument that you and I, every stoner out there has made, is suddenly in the mouth of every progressive and liberal in the country. Every liberal that was talking shit about marijuana during the DNC convention that was like, oh, those stoners, if only they would get out and vote. Remember those fucking clowns? They're now in our boat. Do you know why? Malia Obama just put them there. They have no choice now but to defend her, that it's not dangerous, that it's not a big deal, and just let her live. She's just being a teenager. Now they have to defend that because they spent all day yesterday defending her on Twitter, so her name was floating right near the top most of the day with images of her smoking pot, with them talking about, well, what do you expect with the role model of parent she's had? And, well, all these white people getting upset. Okay, I read some of this stuff to you. I'm gonna just show some parts where I'm looking at Twitter. I'm looking at reactions. Like, I don't need to read to you the findings by the DEA. It's pretty simple. The DEA put out a finding that they're not going to change anything, so nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to change. So you're still in the same position you were yesterday, and they're still losing. And in order to soften the criticism that they would receive for this, they thought that if they added this little provision, plus it helps out GW Pharmaceuticals, who's coming out with a sort of a Marinol, a K2, a synthetic marijuana, like the sort of synthetic marijuana we've seen people get sick on in New York. That's what they're going to offer the public, right? So the DEA must be somehow receiving support from big pharma, and the DEA and the FDA are allowing pills and synthetic marijuana to come into the market, but at the same time they're saying there's no medical value in this. Russ Belville described it as saying that vitamin C was healthy, but the orange that it comes from is not. It's like allowing vitamin C but outlawing oranges. That'll never stand in court. That could go to the Supreme Court and win, because now they are just the DEA and these guys are just going right up their own ass now. They're just so fucked. And they know they're fucked. Here's how they know. Because all you hear about this is science. There's no science. Science! There's no science! Really? Michael Phelps, President Obama, Bill Clinton, fucking Steve Jobs. How many people that are stoners do you have to see become successful? Malia Obama, who is attending currently Harvard and spending her off time smoking marijuana. Or one time, what the fuck does it matter? Okay? You look like a fucking fool. You look like a fool now. Okay? So this is a wonderful day, stoners. This is an argument you can beat. Kevin Sabat was stupid enough to say this is a win for sensible, regulation or sensible whatever, marijuana law. And what he's going to come find out in November is that this was the worst thing that could have happened to your movement. Your $2 million now means nothing, sweetheart. Nothing. Because everyone, from Trump supporters to Democrats, are going to be infuriated at this. And then the Trump supporters are going to be infuriated at the liberals for being elitist and allowing marijuana to be ingested by Obama and his daughter without ramifications to their careers or their lives, while millions of Americans suffer under the yoke of prohibition. Guess what's going to happen next? I mean, I'm expecting either Senator Warren to write another scathing letter to the DEA questioning their concept of science, and maybe putting them in a Senate hearing where they're going to have to explain how this is going to work and how long Americans are going to have to wait and suffer while they pull their collective heads out of their ass. So I'm expecting that, or I'm expecting an outright WikiLeaks dump on them. But something's coming. Something's coming that will tip the scales towards legalization in every state, because that's where you win. And that was the entire point of this exercise. The DEA was never going to do anything. They never do. They can't. They're under international treaties with the UN. They can't do anything. They're trapped in the molasses of their own bullshit with no escape. Like a fly caught in molasses. Help me! They're fucked. They're fucked. And as long as Obama does not sign an executive order saving them, then the Congress can start talking about defunding, can start talking about how they steal from Americans, can start just torturing them and taking them apart. So this ruling is not something bad. It's evidence of what's happening, of their desperation. And in fact, there's so much blowback for this ruling that it blew up in their face. So what I'm going to show you is the video of the blowback and stuff like that. But first, let's smoke a bowl. All morning, I was like expecting more the sort of rational kind of, well, okay, so they're going to allow testing, but no, there wasn't even that. Even the Times Magazine and some of these guys could not help but, because it's clickbait, because they know their audience. Okay, think about this. What was John, you have to think about things. If somebody gives you something, it's evidence. That little, pull that thread and you can follow it. Okay, so John Oliver said that the news is more interested in whatever their readers are interested in. Clickbait, correct? So the headlines they have to write today about the DEA have to be directed at the audience that they know is there, but they're not admitting. So they're playing a two-faced game. See what I'm saying? So what are the headlines that you're going to see? You're going to see one I saw from Forbes magazine said, I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited. One I saw from Forbes magazine said, the DEA refuses to reschedule marijuana and like sees it as dangerous as heroin, leaving Americans to suffer longer, or something like this. And I was like, holy sh! That is not a positive headline. That is not supportive of your point of view. And that isn't because the newspaper isn't supportive. Forbes is probably very supportive of this point of view. They'd like to see GW Pharmaceuticals be able to be the only manufacturers of marijuana. But they have to bow to the clickbait. So if you know that they have to bow to the clickbait, read the headlines. That tells you what their readers really think of subjects, because they have to bow to the clickbait. So what do their readers really think? This is an outrageous ruling. The DEA is overstepping their bounds, and this is another example of government overreach. Everything that, from a progressive to a Donald Trump supporter, everything both sides believe, it fits perfectly in there. And the DEA is fodder under that bus because the clickbait wins. Wow. So let's take a look at some of the reactions. I'll show you this video and we'll come back. Well, stoners, today the DEA came out with their ruling, and we all know what it is, that they still refuse to reschedule marijuana, and they believe that it has no medical value, which is kind of what they believe. Actually, what they're saying is that because of the way the FDA is and the law is, that they have no choice but to believe this because there is no science currently. Now, it's their fault that there's no science because the government made sure that the science was all fucked in the ass by being, they suffocated monkeys with marijuana smoke and said, see, there, it's dangerous. Well, yeah, if you suffocate monkeys with smoke and don't give them oxygen, they tend to die. Anything is dangerous. You could, you give somebody just pure smoke and no oxygen, yes, they're going to die because they're not breathing. You're not giving them oxygen to their brains, so they die. That has nothing to do with marijuana, campfire smoke, or anything else. You've taken the oxygen away. All right, so now, like I've been saying, what the DEA ruled doesn't matter. Does it matter that they didn't change their stance? No, it doesn't. Does it matter that they've opened up, testing for other colleges to grow marijuana and make more marijuana available for medical testing so they can catch up? No, it's too late. As a matter of fact, that this is their decision it makes perfect sense. If you really think about it, they're absolutely right. They have to do everything based on science. They've prevented that science for 30 years. Do you think that it's going to be us that's going to suffer for that, DEA? No. And if you look at some of the reactions in many of these news stories, you will see that the majority of the country does not feel that way either. And the fun part of this is that, like I was saying, the DEA doesn't matter anymore. They just told us they don't matter. They literally, and this was a headline, have come out with the earth is flat ruling. In other words, they believe that the world is flat and not round, just like the Catholic Church did. Now let's just take a look at what happened with the Catholic Church. They're not in power anymore. The Roman Catholic Church is not the power center of the world anymore. And one of the reasons it's not is because of things like saying that the earth was flat. And then when someone came to them and said, no, it isn't, it's round, they said, oh, yes, it is. That's neat. Oh, wait a minute. That'll make everybody think that we're dummies. So we can't accept that answer, even though we know it's true. Because politically, we're stuck. Now the DEA is stuck. Now the FDA has stepped in the shit. Now they're standing in a giant pile of shit. And there is no escape. I love this Chinese finger trap that is marijuana. They are in the shit. Let's look at the shit that they're in. I have collected a few stories here. Let's take a look at some of the readers' reactions. Some of the headlines I'm loving. The DEA won't reschedule cannabis. What does this mean for the future of marijuana legalization? None of these things sound positive for the DEA. This does not sound like we support the DEA's decision. This sounds like they think gay marriage is a sin, you know? So the headlines are great. I'm loving the headlines. Love that one. Didn't see what the comments. Most of these newspapers, you gotta understand, either are too lazy to maintain comments or they're afraid of comments. Here's one that does have comments. DEA regularly mines Americans' travel records to seize millions in cash. So now that the DEA has opened up this world of shit for themselves, right? What's going on is that now we're going to look at everything. Here's what I expect. I expect a Senate hearing about the DEA and the FDA. Or I expect a WikiLeaks dump on the DEA and the FDA. But something is going to happen now. There will be blowback for this. Even the DEA was aware of that because they were put in this little provision about how more colleges could study it because they knew they're fucked. They know they're fucked. It's so awesome. Okay. Profiting isn't that bad. Oh, sorry. Profiling isn't that bad. Okay. So this is just people pissed off about how they're stealing cash from people and they're crooks. And this is like 196 comments. Okay, so the mood of the country right now is not positive with government. Everyone in government is a profiteer or a crook right now. That's the entire reason why Donald Trump is so popular, because everybody hates government right now. Feds reject requests to take marijuana off Schedule 1 drug list. We won't read them because it's pretty much basically all the same story. They don't have any choice but to, it's like the ads just are determined to run. They're so stupid. The ads are so stupid. John Oliver wants us to pay attention to ads because that pays for, the news. And we could lose small-time newspapers. My problem is that modern advertising is stupid and always has been. And, it's that Brillo cream ad. Okay, report DEA will not reschedule marijuana. None of these things sound positive. Not DEA finds that marijuana is still too dangerous to, None of this is positive for the DEA. I have read these stories for years, and I'm telling you, these people are pissed off at the FDA and the DEA right now. And you can tell by the headlines. Okay. Let's see what some of the reader reaction is. What the DEA should have said was, we want to keep making money with pot also. A government becomes illegitimate when its actions are not supported by the consensus of the governed. Very good. That's exactly what I'm saying. The DEA and the FDA just stepped in a giant pile of shit. Expect WikiLeaks or somebody to be going after them hard. This is idiotic. Oh, yeah. And it gets better. I'm enjoying this day so much. Let's see. It's like, where do I go? The utter stupidity of the FDA and the DEA. Why are people so threatened? What the hell has that got to do with anything? The DEA and the federal government has chosen to keep marijuana illegal. I'm like, they just helped us win the election. So many states are looking at either legal medical marijuana or legal recreational marijuana, and the DEA just handed us a win on that because none of these Trump supporters and the Democrats just took it up as their party platform, and none of the Trump supporters like the federal government. And they certainly don't like the DEA because the DEA steals from people. All right. So this is like the trifecta of win right now for us in marijuana. They just handed us the election. Do you understand what I'm saying? People are outraged. The election is where you pay the DEA back. The DEA just handed us wins in legal states and medical marijuana states for 2016. That's what I'm telling you. They just did something so stupid. Okay. This just in, the DEA has moved blackberries to Schedule 1 substance. Pain pills are still cool, though. They're just getting it from all sides. Update on DEA marijuana decision. DEA just told cannabis people should not get hung up on this idea that DEA somehow is still a big bad wolf. See, they're defending themselves. I gotta repost that one. They're defending themselves because they know they're fucked. They just handed us 2016, stoners. The DEA just handed us 2016 because this is an outrageous ruling. Okay, DEA doubles down on position that medical marijuana has no benefits. Ignore science. Burn. I mean, just utter burns everywhere. Simultaneously lull a rage tears at the... Okay, simultaneously lull and rage tears as the description of DEA's approach to marijuana science. Let's see. The DEA drug approval process for evaluating, I gotta repost it, evaluating potential medicines has worked effectively in this country for more than 50 years. Oh yeah, we see that on TV all the time. All those fucking pharmaceutical ads, how well it works. It is a thorough, deliberate, and exacting process grounded in science and maybe a little payola. And properly so, because the safety of our citizens relies on it. This is so funny. He's right. These guys have fucked themselves in the ass and given us 2016 in a wrapped in bow. I mean, these guys have given us the election. These guys have given us the election today. Using established science standards that are consistent with the same FDA drug approval process and based in the FDA science and medical evaluation, as well as the legal standards of the CSA. Now, please remember, kids, while I'm reading this, that at one time the FDA did not have any findings that showed that sugar was not a healthy part of your breakfast, because companies pay them to not have findings or not have conclusive findings, okay? This is the same FDA that has allowed every pharmaceutical ad that you see on television that tells you that these things are dangerous, that they can cause death, that they can cause bleeding. This is the same FDA and their rigorous science. Yeah, more like they're getting paid a ton of cash. This is great. This is the greatest day for us ever. It's literally now they're admitting who they really are.
Okay, the FDA scientific and medical evaluation. Oh yeah, we've seen all that, haven't we, guys? Marijuana will remain a Schedule 1 controlled substance. It does not have a current acceptable medical use. In treatment in the United States, there is a lack of acceptable safety for its use under medical supervision. That means one out of every 8 Americans in the United States today is doing exactly the opposite of what these idiots in Washington are talking about. In other words, they're fucked. This is exactly like they came out and said that gay marriage is a sin. Yeah, now expect the blowback to be huge. Huge. They're going to get the fuck defunded out of them. It does not have a currently acceptable medical use. This was a huge mistake to say, although I see why legally you're stuck. You have to say it. You're fucked. And it has high potential for abuse. If the scientific understanding about marijuana changes, and it could change, then the decision could change. But we will remain tethered to science. So we must, and as the statute demands, it certainly would be odd to rely on science when it suits us and ignore it otherwise. It certainly would be odd to rely on science when it suits us and ignore it otherwise. Okay, nobody knows which. Okay, yeah, I guess that's hilarious. All right, but here's what's going on. They keep bringing up science. How many times did he say science, or these people say science in this? Count it. Let's see. Wait, my eyeballs are flipping old and blurry. That's tiny writing. Let's make it so normal people can read it. Oh, that's a little too big. Come on, Demi. Approval, effective, country, 30 years, grounded, 1. Science. Same, approval, scientific, that's 2. Standards, marijuana, Schedule 1. Substance currently accepted under the United States Safety Acts, blah, blah, blah. Safety changes, changes, remains science, that's 3. Status demands, science, that's 4. So within 3 paragraphs, they've mentioned science 4 times, and a couple of times it wasn't even really that necessary. Like in the last 2 paragraphs, it's more like just, now we're just going to say science, science, science a couple of times more. This shows their desperation. This shows their desperation because notice how they have to keep saying, we're basing this in science. Please don't kill us. Please don't destroy us. It's based on science. They're getting fucked today. They're getting fucked. I know Julian Assange is looking for a WikiLeaks motherfucker on the DEA and FDA today. The war on marijuana by the DEA continues. DEA denies petition to reclassify marijuana as less dangerous, will remain Schedule 1 drug with heroin and ecstasy. And that's ABC News. That's negative. That's against the DEA. Because obviously classifying marijuana with heroin is not science. Do you see what's happening? They have to say science 1,000 times because, well, it's not 1,000, but you get my meaning. Because what they're saying is obviously not scientific, and not even the President of the United States or his daughter agrees with them. They're on a little tiny island all by themselves. I wonder what that must feel like. Kevin Sabat said this was good news. Kevin, when you see how many states are going to go legal this 2016, you're not going to think this was good news. Oh, this is great. This is so great. Let's just keep going. Why the DEA just said no to smart marijuana policy. This latest DEA obstructionism may also boost future reform, since it is clear DEA is opposing reform to protect their gravy train. 8 out of 10. DEA, you have to feed the breast with questionable asset seizure in name of drugs. Thanks to the flat earth DEA, stoners own the internet. That's right, exactly. They have no idea the shitstorm they just created. They did the worst choice they could have made. Of course they did. I was counting on them to make this choice. Don't you see? They are fucked by their own behavior. They're trapped now. They have to say this isn't science, because think about it. If their entire system is based on the supposed scientific method, and for all the other drugs as well. So if you prove that marijuana is absolutely fucktarded, then people are going to start looking at the rest of the drug scheduling system and start questioning whether or not some of those pharmaceutical drugs should really be that accessible. See? It's all falling apart for them right now. It's beautiful. You're watching literally the beginning of the end for the DEA right at this very moment. And they just kicked that door open themselves. They had no choice. This was their checkmate. I knew they were going to try to squirm out of it. They can't. Anything they do fucks them right now. They are fucked. The DA is fucked. They're in trouble. They've opened up a world of shit for themselves. Russ Belville says, Feds say cannabinoids have medical use, USPTO, and cannabis itself does not, DEA. Like saying vitamin C is nutritious, but oranges are not. Science! I have to write that. I'm not going to know how to spell it. It's make sure it's spelled right. Okay, it's checking my spelling. Yes. Sometimes these things don't check my spelling. I have to make sure. I don't trust any spell checks anymore. Science! Oh, update on DEA marijuana decision. DEA just told cannabis people should not get hung up on the idea that the DEA is somehow the big bad wolf. Read that already. Predictable but tragic action from DEA. That's Steve D'Angelo. Yeah, that's what was wonderful about it, was how predictable it was. Thank God the enemy is so predictable. I mean, you can defeat an enemy that you can easily predict, and they are trapped in their own bullshit. They're literally like stuck in their own web of stupidity. Well, I guess that's all of those fun things. I'd go back to the Forbes story, but I'm not sure it wants to behave properly. Anyway, that wasn't the only exciting thing that happened. Yesterday, all day, Malia Obama was trending. The Independent. Malia Obama supporters with cries of "let her live" after video emerges alleging showing teen smoking marijuana at Lollapalooza. Yes, it was trending all day yesterday on Twitter. So the combination of the DEA coming out and saying it has no medical value and it's a highly addictive drug, and Malia Obama getting caught smoking weed and everyone defending her. Do you see what I'm saying? Come November, every marijuana ballot's going to pass now. Because those two things are just going to get hammered on for the next beautiful 89 days of this wonderful experience we call legalization. Okay, Malia Obama supporters have reacted with anger over the disproportionate disproportionate amount of attention paid to her social life after a video was shared by a gossip column purporting to show the president's oldest daughter smoking marijuana. It doesn't say marijuana, but they're cutting that out because they're assholes. The 18-year-old's presence at a music festival in Chicago continues to be the subject of tabloids' fodder, and now people are demanding gossip sites leave Malia alone and let her be a teenager. Yeah, because smoking a cigarette at a concert is so much a part of being a teenager. No, obviously it wasn't a cigarette she was smoking. Nobody, if she's the president's daughter. If the president's daughter has to smoke a fag, cigarette down to the nub, then obviously she's impoverished. That's what homeless people do. So it was a joint. Nobody smokes a cigarette down to the foam, okay? She could afford another pack of cigarettes. It's marijuana that you smoke down to a roach, not cigarettes. Not unless you're poor. Then you're going around collecting butts off the street. The 18-year-old was president of a music festival in Chicago, continues to be a subject of tabloid fodder, and now people are demanding gossip site leave Malia alone and let her be a teenager. Radar Online has obtained a 9-second video the gossip site claims shows Malia smoking at Lollapalooza Festival. It quotes an eyewitness as claiming the cigarette she was smoking contains cannabis, which was recently decriminalized in the state of Illinois. Being in possession of any amount under 10 grams is no longer punishable by criminal penalties. Really? Because the DEA apparently doesn't agree with any of that, and why isn't the DEA stomping their ass up to the White House and arresting Malia? Video of Malia dancing at Lollapalooza sparked cries of "Let Malia live" after she was criticized for attending the music festival. Instead of the Democratic National Convention calls to let Malia live are now filtering through tweets highlighting the unfair standards expected of her because of her platform as the president's daughter. Malia Obama is just a teenager. Let her live. Stop putting so much pressure on her just because she's the president's daughter. It's just annoying to me that people record Malia Obama while she's out like, you're so annoying. Let the girl live. Let Malia Obama alone. Okay, now remember, she was caught smoking marijuana, and that's what all these people are defending. Let her alone. Let her live. Really? Because the DEA apparently doesn't want to let any of us pot smokers live. I don't understand why Malia Obama gets cut so much slack when so many other black people aren't. Imagine if she was a black young teenager in, say, Texas, and the police pulled her over and suspected her of having any marijuana. She would probably be cavity searched right there on the street in front of everyone. But because she's the president's daughter, lay off? Think about that. Her father's role as the head of the state of propelled both of his daughters to fame and tabloids has become increasingly interested in them as they age towards adulthood. Yeah, and out of his control. Her work experience on the set of Girls became front page news after a selfie reported sparked a White House security probe. Attention is also being directed towards her youngest sister, Sasha, 15, whose summer job serving food attracted great interest. What I think is attracting my interest is that this happens on the same day that, or the very day before the DEA releases their findings. And do you think Malia is going to get arrested by the DEA? Do you think the kinds of things that happen to Black Americans or Hispanics every day for marijuana possession is going to happen, and is going to continue to happen now, would happen to Malia? No. Would happen to Obama? No. So they look even more elitist than they did a week ago. They look fucking totally elitist to stoners now.
You know, I can remember years ago when Proposition 8 was being pushed around California that they were scared to death that legal gay marriage was coming to the state and that this was not what God had intended, for us. And we would be sinning if we allowed such a thing to exist. And so there were all these yard signs in people's yards, around here especially, that I saw that said, yes on Prop 8, And my son pointed them out and was like, these signs just make me sick. And I'm like, it's going to be okay, honey. Don't worry. It's going to be okay. And he's upset that this thing is going through and they voted on it and they won. And I'm like, honey, it's unconstitutional. It's going to be okay. So what Proposition 8 did was it actually opened up the door to California having to allow gay marriage even sooner. That because they had made such a ridiculous, proposition that was going to tell other Americans how to live their lives based on some Americans' belief system, that's clearly unconstitutional. So what happened was, instead of California blocking gay marriage, the exact opposite happened, and the barriers to gay marriage fell away until people just decided to stop embarrassing themselves with their stupid fear, correct? Well, we've already reached the tipping point with marijuana where most people are not going to out themselves as a cowering pearl clutcher and go, oh, the children and everything. Those arguments are beginning to not be heard as much because they know damn well that they've been beaten, and even though they still may cling to them desperately, openly expressing that only makes them look inferior. Now we have marijuana legalization, and the DEA gets petitioned just before 2016 election to come out with a ruling. Now, what's their ruling? Typically, what their ruling has always been. No, we're not going to do anything. This is our bread and butter. Exactly what the petitioners were probably hoping for and expecting and playing into the narrative at this time. And then lo and behold, the day before, the president's daughters their photographs come out of her smoking pot. So everything's going to be fine. And here's how it's going to be fine. The DEA just gave this fantastically unpopular ruling. Just at the very same moment that now the Obamas look massively elitist, and Obama's letting his daughter go around smoke pot, but busting the rest of America. Remember that video about how, what if it was your daughter, Sasha or Malia, needed this as a medicine? What would you do then, President Obama? Yeah, well, now it is Malia. That video came true, and now it is Malia who's smoking pot and is should be under federal investigation by the DEA, but isn't. So now it makes the Obamas look elitist, and all the Democrats have to come out and protect them and say, but it's legal where they're at to have small amounts of marijuana, even for the President of the United States' daughter. And then it's like, well, then if you can't keep the President of the United States, see how this line of argument starts to go? If you can't keep Malia Obama from smoking pot while her fucking president father is in the White House, then who can you keep from smoking pot? Boom. And prohibition just goes up in a puff of logic. See, really, it's a beautiful day. And then we've got 89 days, like a little over 80-something days until the election. We got so much time to just play out these themes. Think about this. If it's good enough for Malia's daughter and President Obama, it's good enough for me. I don't need your approval, FDA, but thanks for thinking of me. Somebody else said, does the FDA approve other things that are more dangerous, like sugar like alcohol, like, you know, like these other things that are allowed that are more dangerous and addicting than marijuana, and yet marijuana is still Schedule 1 and those other drugs are not. So you're talking about science, and yet none of that is scientific. And that's why they got to mention science about 50 times in their fucking statements, because they know they're fucked. So you're going to see them all puff up their chest and go, whoa, this doesn't mean, and we might come back later. And well, because of the way the FDA works, and they're gonna come at it. They're fucked. They're more fucked now than before when it was little things. When they had a Senate meeting and the DEA head could not fucking say whether or not marijuana was more or less dangerous than heroin. Could not make a statement at all. That hung in the air over their heads in Washington for a long damn time. And now they come out with this that's an even more ridiculous fucking ruling when you start looking at it. Oh, it's going to be fun. In other words, we're having to play catch up. Please wait for us, because we lied all these years, and now we're going to make you, the American people, suffer as we do things the correct way, as at whatever pace we decide to do it, and you are supposed to suffer as a patient, or your individual American civil rights are going to suffer as we figure out what really is going on after we lied all these years. If you had a boyfriend like this, would you say, yeah, sure, I'll let you do that? Or would you say, get the fuck out of my house and don't come back? You see what I'm saying? Oh, it's a good day. If you think of it as a chess match, it's checkmate right now. Checkmate. Kevin Sabat was stupid enough to come out and say, this is good ruling for us. No. In fact, you'll see in November what blowback is. You'll see how the voters punish government. How the voters in the Republican Party are going to punish the Republican Party for choosing Trump and putting him forth as a candidate and allowing that to happen. You're going to see a lot of punishment this November. It's going to be so interesting. And it's just win-win-win for me everywhere, because now, I mean, I'm so happy. I just want to keep just ticking on these ideas. Think about it. Every independent that supports the Democrats, that supports Obama, every what did he call it? Progressive, every Democrat, whether they support marijuana or not, had to support marijuana yesterday in order to defend Malia Obama. That's better than that fucking Pokemon Go. Suddenly my arguments are in somebody else's mouth, and that person doesn't want them there. That person doesn't want to be defending marijuana, but what choice do they have now? Now that the DEA's come out with this ruling, now that the DEA's come out with this ruling the day after Malia Obama gets busted on camera. We get to just dance back and forth and touch on all of these different, because it's a mess. They've created a mess. And we get to just pull things out and go, did you see this? Oh, isn't that ugly? Oh, yeah. Well, let's set that aside. There's another one. Wait. Look at this. Look at this disastrous mess they've created with their stupid prohibition. And Malia Obama now. Look at, I know, and she's going to Harvard, and they're treating her like this. I mean, really? Or they're not treating her like this when they treat other Americans like this. Check and mate. Everywhere. Check and mate. Check and mate. Check and mate. They know they're fucked. They know they're fucked. They knew they were fucked. That's why they took their time. Remember that they put off this ruling. They were putting off this ruling. Remember that? How they were putting off the ruling? And yet, suddenly they're coming out with the ruling. The day after images of the president's daughter smoking pot comes out. Stir waters to catch fish. Well, we caught them. Boy, we caught them. They didn't want to come out with that. It didn't take them no extra time to figure out no legal stance on nothing on this. There was no need for delays. See? So why were they delaying? And if they were delaying, why did they pop off with it yesterday? Because they're off base. They're off their step. We got them off their game. We're in their heads. We're playing them hard. We're up in their ass. Because everyone and their cousin is camping out up their ass right now. To me, it's like an amazing day. Because they get this day. This little tiny win. Well, we're not going to legalize marijuana. But what's going to come next is the pounding of a lifetime. Because it's like having, you know, your boyfriend come back and go, well, no, we're not going to do that. But I'll give you, yeah, no, you're going to get the fuck out of my face now forever. That was your chance. Yeah, this will give even Republican senators a leave to go after the DEA and cut their funding, which they've already started to do anyway. It's a good day. All right, so I'm going to let you go. You stay high and goodbye. Think about what I've said. Think about how they've set themselves up. Read through their explanation and see how many times they talk about science or how this is scientific. When in fact, they've even disagreed with the President of the United States, who said that he believed that marijuana was less dangerous than alcohol. And alcohol's not Schedule 1, is it? Science. They are fucked. Dance on their grave right now because they are in a grave. They're gonna puff up and act like they're walking tall. I'm still large and in charge. No, son. Today you're a dead man walking. You're finished. You're done. Baked. You just proved to me you're baked because you opened your mouth, and then you had to open your mouth in this way, showing your true weakness, showing your true panic. I see who you are now. You are done. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. I'm just like so happy today. Wait, you'll see. Okay, so you stay high and goodbye.
What's this? Cruise drops out. Bye, Felicia. Oh, wait. That means we're stuck with Trump now. So ratchet. Hey, what do you think, Abe? Me too. Hey, babe. You gotta come see this. Hey, who's there? Joseph Robinette Biden, you better not be playing with the lights.
Mr. President, I come to you on behalf of my generation to talk to you about this little plant situation. See, a lot of politicians hate it, but I'ma break it down and demonstrate to you why it's not as bad as they make it sound. See, you're the president that I believe can handle this. Heck, your campaign slogan was, yes, we cannabis. Just kidding, but seriously, let's examine this subject truthfully, dog. Look, see, you taught constitutional law at Harvard, right? In 96, well, you should know the Declaration of Independence was drafted out of hemp. So was the flag, so were the sails that pushed our ships on the path to the colonies. So what's the fuel used for Henry Ford's Model T? So in a sense, you could say that pot has actually driven American history.
Please, it makes you lazy and underachieve.
But how can that be when some of the most successful people smoke weed? From Walt Disney to Milton Fried, from Stephen King to Steve Jobs, the apple didn't fall from the tree. You get it? Steve Jobs, Apple, trees. Jobs created the Apple computer, high off weed. See, people believe that this plan is sinful. But let's go back in time and find out exactly where these beliefs came from. Cause before the after the 1930s, things changed up. Cause that's when President Hoover commissioned a man named Harry J. Anslinger as head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. His middle name's ironic, cause he was the main guy attempting to demonize marijuana. I mean cannabis sativa. See, the name marijuana he created as propaganda for the people to make it sound more dirty and a little more evil. He figured if he could scare the public enough, they would want it illegal. He teamed up with newspapers who had their own motivations.
Like what?
Google Decorticator. The newspapers printed fake stories about how every puff destroys your brain, making you crazy, insane, prone to murder and rape. They use race and then said again that we makes white women want to get pregnant by Negroes and immigrant Mexicans. And based off of no research or investigation, Congress rubber stamped that legislation, and then poof, there was a law around it. So we accepted it and never thought about it. But let's get smart about it. Lies and greed are the real reasons that it's illegal, and the reason you got that look on your face when I talk about it.
Mr. E, marijuana's illegal for public health reasons. We don't want the American people breathing that stuff in and smoking it. Ain't nothing wrong with a little game day buzz, but marijuana's a dangerous, useless gateway drug. And you want me to legalize so that the kids can get it easier? Well, what can I say? Either that's something to laugh at, or bro, you're more of a jackass than Kanye.
A jackass? Okay. How about we talk about this rationally? See, every 6 seconds a person dies from tobacco and every 13 from alcohol.
Really?
Guess how many died in the last 10,000 years from
I
weed?
know you're gonna tell me.
None at all. A zip, zero, nada. No chance to overdose. Not one case in history, and no, I'm not blowing smoke. Don't be a coward, just regulate and control it. Take the power from the drug dealers who contaminate, sell it, and own it. See, they love the laws, how they are, because they make millions. When drug lords support your laws, it's time to amend them. As for the kids, yeah, I'd agree, except
what?
it's easier for kids to buy weed than to buy beer or cigarettes. Is that surprising?
A little
Think
bit.
about it, sir. How many drug dealers you know ask the CID? And stop saying it's a gateway drug, something so strong that you can't break away from. Big homie, listen, quit being a politician. Studies show it's not addictive, and the gateway theory's a lot of fiction, a contradiction, and you can quote me on it. You said marijuana was a useless drug? Hold up a moment. Medical tests and evidence show it's proven to treat glaucoma, cancer, asthma, multiple sclerosis. It could do so much if it was legal. But if it was legal, a lot of pharmaceutical drugs wouldn't be needed. I did my research and it seems that
What? So what did you find
Big
out?
Pharma gave you millions of dollars. So if weed became legal, they would lose a lot of profit, and you would lose funding. So tell me, Mr. Presidential, is it really public health or is it special interest? Are you worried about the kids or the private businesses? Only a few years back, you was against lobbying and corporate robbery. You campaigned for change, well damn it, now demonstrated in policy.
The war on drugs has been an utter failure, and I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
Cause if you really want to stimulate the economy and mitigate the problems that emanate from poverty, it's time to legalize this billion-dollar commodity. Harvard professor Jeffrey Myron estimated $9 billion generated in taxes from regulation, plus another 11 will be saved from law enforcement resources and incarcerations. That's 20 billion total every year. You saying this country don't need that kind of paper? Put it towards environment, invest in education, infrastructure in conjunction with job creation, or maybe a combination. Just stop laughing at the situation and give it serious consideration. It ain't a joke, ain't nothing funny. The country's broke and its people need money. It's simple economics. Listen, you did it, Bush did it, Clinton did it, Lincoln did it, and now you throw people in prison for this crime that we committed. Mr. President, if it's such a sin, then why don't you and the men I just named turn yourselves in?
But.
I beg your pardon? See, I don't wanna hear that circular logic. We ain't in that Oval Office. Let's be honest, if you got caught with marijuana the day you smoked, there wouldn't even be an Obama, no Barack at that prestigious college or Harvard getting his speeches polished with honors. Cause today, you can't get a student loan if caught with one weed cigarette, but you can have a rape conviction on your record and still get a check from the government. Yo, what the fuck is this? Do you not see injustice when it's people suffering sick, dying of cancer, whose only relief is a plant proven to ease pain? But that don't mean handcuffs. That don't mean being called a criminal. That don't mean thrown behind bars. Pitiful. Mr. President, this ain't political, it's commonsensical. Millions in prison for something that's never killed a single individual. But you make deals with prescription drug advocates, when just last year more Americans died from prescriptions in their cabinets than heroin, terrorism, murder, and traffic accidents combined. Mr. President, open your eyes and see the blood on the wall. These companies wouldn't care if the country was coming apart. They sharks, they only care about how much it'll cost. Ain't been a disease cured in 60 years. Why? Cause a patient cured is a customer lost. Well, I say enough is enough. It's time for us to fix this. It's time to get away from the pharmaceutical interest. Forget about the stigma, forget the opinions of politicians, cause collective ignorance don't mean wisdom. Forget about pandering to the system, cause when the system's wrong, sir, it's your duty to go against it. I urge you to reread that 9th Amendment and have courage and conviction, and remember your commitment to the people. Cause what if it was Malia? What if she needed a drug that was illegal to survive? Will things change? Will they be a little different? Will policy remain? Put yourself in that position. And nah, I'm not wishing that on you, just illustrating the consequences of this little plant situation. Cause a lot of politicians hate it, but I just broke it down. It's up to you to step up, sir. The time is now. I say the time is now. I hope you step up, sir. The time is now.
There's still time. Just a dream.